Hello Internet, this is Lord Mad Dog, and today we're going to be discussing more about writing, or storytelling in general. So today we're going to talk about concept, and this is the process of getting an ideal, and before you ever even put it down on a piece of paper, is thinking about that whole ideal. And for me, that's sitting down, thinking about an ideal, trying to discover an ideal, and then imagining the story in my mind and working out the details of that story in my mind, and keep on working on those details and keep them going, moving forward until I have either the whole story told or a decent portion of the story told. Because if you don't do this, I find that if you sit down in front of a piece of paper or in front of you, or a blank Word document on your computer, whichever way you want to use it, however you do, that you get writer's block. So if you're suffering from writer's block, this is kind of for you. Or if you're just trying to think about conceiving a deal, this will be a little bit for you. So let's start off with a practical example. For my Axiom series, my concept was a 12-year-old boy and super magically powerful. Yeah, that's good. We can make a good story with that. And so we now have our concept, and a lot of people then try to sit down and write with that. I find it doesn't work too well. It's better to find someplace quiet, someplace secluded, or if you're really able to concentrate on you telling yourself a story, it don't have to, but it can help. So find someplace quiet, sit down, close your eyes, and begin to imagine your story and let it play out before you, in front of you. Let the characters become alive and let them react and act to the world around them. So for Axiom, my 12-year-old boy, my ideal for him is he's super brilliant, he's super magically powerful, and he's academically accomplished. He's also a no-nonsense type of guy. So we kind of think of your character. You got to let the character become alive to you. And then after you have your character, so that's not all the details I come up with the character, but you're getting an idea. I'm not going to want to take too long on these little things. You now need a conflict for your character. Because without conflict, there is no story. That's just how it is. Now, if you want that conflict to be horrible and gross and mean and nasty, that's a different type of story genre. Some of the conflict can be as simple as he stubbed his toe and he jumped around and his girlfriend laughed at him. It can really be according to the genre, but you have to have a conflict of some kind. So for Axiom, the conflict is his headmaster. Now, my little 12-year-old boy has completed all the academics, done all the class, and he should be graduating from magic school. But he's so magically powerful and so intelligent, his headmaster does not want to unleash him on the world. So the headmaster has him come in, he sits down on a chair, and the headmaster says, you have accomplished everything, but it would be irresponsible for someone like me, for me to allow someone like you, so immature, out on the world, because one simple mistake, you would destroy everything. But he doesn't say that directly, because our headmaster also has a character. So this is important. You have to know your characters and visualize your characters. So my headmaster, he is a little bit more shrewd. He's a little bit more delicate. He's been around for a long time. He knows how to be diplomatic. So instead of saying immature, he goes, you have surpassed all your classes with flying colors, and I'm giving you a diploma. However, it would be immature for me to allow someone with your lack of experience to enter the world at large, because if you made a single mistake, which people your age are prone to, you could change the face of our world as we know it. And you kind of get the idea that now we kind of get the little bit more idea about the character, his headmaster's character. So that's important. Knowing your characters, even if it's a side character, you have to know their reason for everything they do. And you got to think about these before you ever begin to write them on a piece of paper, because if you don't, what happens is you get bland, crappy characters that are throwaway tokens. And we've seen that in some movies, and we see it in some stories. And when this happens, the people who are enjoying your entertainment, they get by it, and they don't even know why, but we just know naturally it's not right. Or when a character is portrayed a certain way and that character acts outside of that character, acts outside of his own actions, what he would do, his own natural processing thing, your readers will automatically go, ugh. So you gotta know your character, and then once you know your characters, you put them inside your world and you let them act on the inside, and so they come out through you. So once that happens, you've now got your character, you've got your conflict, and then you've got to move your story forward. So in my story, I have it jumped 6 months ahead of time, and we have him talking about the main character, the 12-year-old boy, talking about his life now, and how he's got a student, he's been promoted to a teacher, but this is the first time he's actually been allowed outside the college. And he's teaching these kids about magically farming, and he's talking about, and you get the idea that these kids that he's controlling are, I'm not controlling, but trying to teach, don't really listen to him, don't really give a rip what he's going to say, because who cares what a 12-year-old says? Who's a nut mind would put this guy over us? And yeah, it's general typical. So you get the characters of them too. And then we add our conflict. A beautiful lady teleports in and says, I will free you of your bondage. And so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Now, we have our ideal. We have it planned out to a certain extent. Now we can begin to write that down on a piece of paper. And as we write down, we will refine these ideals. So it's important not to get stuck on the little details as you're imagining it out in your mind, because as it comes out, you will refine it when you write it down or put it down in whatever medium you're using. So, yeah, that's basically how it works. But there's also some things to be cautious of. I think it's best sometimes to have the whole story worked out in your own mind before, because then people love what's called foreshadowing. So a good example I read about is if someone puts a gun up on the wall, later on, if you have a little scene with someone putting a gun up on the wall, that hints that that gun's going to be used. Now, your people, your readers, your watchers, whatever they are, they might not even realize that they automatically catch that. Like, hey, oh, that's there. But when you use it later on, it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And it creates this euphoric moment for your characters. So that's one of the reasons why I would think you want to imagine your whole story out inside your mind before you put it down on a piece of paper or your medium. And however, that's not necessarily absolute. You can do it. I would say you should at least have 3 chapters completely worked out in your mind before you put it down. And you should never have less than 1 chapter ready in the wing when you're writing, because if you do, you will get to the end of your imagined section and come to a writer's block. And that can be quite problematic, because that piece of paper can be very intimidating, and you can just sit there for hours and not be able to move, say, or think. Or like even with this, in front of something, or you're writing, intimidation. It's amazing how intimidating inanimate objects can be. So you don't have that problem. Stop that, kitty. And so you don't have that problem. It's important to try to have all the details in your mind worked out. Have your world kind of constructed. The rules of your magic or the rules of your society. Have your characters vivid in your imagination, the more vivid your characters are in your imagination, the more vivid your world is in your imagination, the better your writing is going to be. And that is an absolute must, because your readers will realize it. A good example of this is the Avengers. If you ever watch that and you sit back as a writer, you will notice that whoever wrote the Avengers, the movie, you will realize they really knew their characters, and it's kind of a shock to see these characters interact with each other, and they kind of drive the story in of themselves. And that's what's so important. People love characters, so you have to have your characters fully vivid in your mind. So I'm going to recap here. Characters fully vivid in your mind. Conflict. World constructed. You don't want to be like have a magic system. If you're going to have a magic system, you don't want to be like purple spell, pink spell. No, you want to have your magic system to have a basis. You might never actually put it down on a piece of paper, but your own mind, you want to have that fully constructed. So characters, conflict, and world completely understood, and let your actors act, your characters act inside your world. So I hope this helps you. I hope to help you to come up with an ideal and to get over that thing is most people have a problem with writer's block. So it's like I said, it's been wonderful. I hope you watch the next one. The next one will be going over types of writing styles. So I'll see you again later.